We're going to move through this discourse as succinctly as possible regarding one of the biggest epidemics that affects humanity at large, which is mothers who enable their sons, because this affects dynamics within families, family cohesiveness, and womankind. This pattern of mothers enabling their sons often stems from the mother not having a relationship or being in a deeply unfulfilling relationship. Maybe she married someone who didn't honor the vows that were taken, who doesn't treat her in a sacred manner, and someone who's low vibrational or minimally contributive. And so the son is used as her emotional spouse. Often mothers aren't aware that they've placed their son in that role, and it continues all throughout the male's life. When he becomes an adult, he's reliant on his mother to lean on her so that he doesn't have to stand on his own 2 feet entirely. That's what he's accustomed to. He doesn't have to learn how to be a dignified, sovereign leader. These are transactional relationships that are mistaken as love-based relationships. The son has someone who, no matter what he does, will always be there for him, which is dangerous because it doesn't allow him to establish a true moral compass. And therein lies the crux of this discourse, because not having an established moral compass affects our species so detrimentally. There's energetic exchanges with what we're talking about. The trade-off is that the mother has someone to talk to. She uses the son to have some type of stimulating conversation or nurturance, or to have someone revere her and adore her. The son is filling in for these traits that the mother doesn't receive through the relationship with her spouse, traits that the mother doesn't experience independently in her life as a woman. So it's an unhealthy attempt to fill her loneliness, boredom, and unhappiness through her son. And that results in a man who doesn't know how and doesn't have the capacity and wherewithal to run a family of his own, devote his life to a partner, protect and provide. Enabling your son disables the warrior within him and creates fragmentation, because the primary example set for the son was seeing his mother settle for unacceptable conditions. Whether it was abuse or neglect or complacency or mediocrity, where there's nothing about what she has going on with her life that allows the son to have a psychological imprint and template that he can emulate of how to properly pour into another. Because he didn't see his mother being properly poured into or divinely honored. And the son, unfortunately, mimics this pattern. Boys who are enabled by their mothers grow up to be incomplete, inadequate, insecure, even delusional. They're not conscious of the things that keep them from embodying wholeness. Their reality is overlaid with a false and toxic confidence, which can lead to arrogance. They grew up being babied, coddled, not required to figure out critical thinking, strategy, and leadership. That's a huge disservice to employers, to women, and to communities who need men to be rooted in a mature, evolved version of their masculinity and embody a knowing of their overall purpose. And of course, those men need brothers and paternal figures reinforcing them throughout their journey. When a male's life partner is essentially his mother, he's not able to manage or sustain a thriving relationship that's emotionally intelligent and spiritually advanced. Eventually, his mother passes away, and he still doesn't have a foundational example or tools within. So he feels a loss of the helium that once filled the balloon of his identity. Now he's truly deflated and disabled, carrying on patterns that he witnessed with his parental dynamics, where whatever his mother accepted is what he expects others to accept of him. If there wasn't a standard of excellence growing up, if there wasn't a precedent of integrity, he becomes lost in the world, creating facades of adulthood, perhaps able to carry out work of some kind and transactional relationships, but not healthy relational bonds. This affects our species and ripples all throughout the world. If there's a mother listening to this who recognizes an opportunity to course correct, it's important that this message be conveyed, and we'll go into greater detail now. Enabling our sons is detrimental. They need structure, discipline, discernment, and most of all, an unwavering moral compass. Because if right and wrong are not clear within the male's experience with his parents and in his perception of reality, his essence and impact in the world will remain unestablished, wishy-washy, and harmful. Whenever he attempts to engage in emotional intimacy with someone, physical intimacy with someone, spiritual intimacy, he's not able to do that successfully because his example of intimacy was seeing the unacceptable be settled for, tolerated, and endured. He sees that his mother doesn't require much of anything from her closest counterparts. She becomes the son's bank or his enabling confidant. The son becomes the mother's emotional spouse because she hasn't required or sought out or attracted what she needs in her personal life. And we can't have a healthy humanity like that. The most important thing in raising a boy is to equip the boy to not need the caregiver, to love and respect and appreciate the caregiver, but to learn true self-sufficiency, where he creates value in the world and he's benefited by that in ways that he needs to be able to provide for his loved ones and serve a higher path and purpose. A lot of that remains unclear and undefined if there's no male example of how to live a balanced life. Let's say that there wasn't a father figure in the home, or there was a very poor father figure in terms of influence. The boy can still be surrounded by mentors, brothers, elders, and friends. There's opportunity to have a strengthening presence in his weekly life. But the mother, as his primary influence, with whom he was connected to through an umbilical cord and emerged from her body and has the desire to please her and be validated by her and ultimately always taken care of by his mother in some way, then the magnitude of this dependency pattern determines whether that boy will become a righteous man with proper conduct or a wreck of a person with no true sense of accountability, who then brings his wreckage time and time again to his mother, knowing she has no strict standards, boundaries, or conditions in order for him to receive the same treatment. In other words, he will always have that open door with her, and we misguidedly call that unconditional love. Actually, this is called not having a moral compass. When wrongdoing is inevitably carried out and the male encounters his human fallibility at different points, he may not immediately feel apologetic, shameful, remorseful, or go into repair mode, because there's no guidance system that was ever activated within the man to develop a natural inclination like that. That's why we commonly hear about males who end up engaging in criminal activity or creating sabotaging scenarios, subconsciously knowing there's a safety net through the mother figure no matter what he does. This ruins lives. This prevents families from even forming. This harms women psychologically and in many other ways. It creates a male who isn't intrinsically ambitious or motivated to prosper if, let's say, the mother saves the day monetarily, rather than encourage and expect her son to be strategic, creative, think outside of the box, be resourceful, have gumption and initiative to find a way on his own, rather than blanket him with a solution or remedy that doesn't serve his life beyond that moment. Mothers who enable their sons may be resistant to confronting these kinds of things because it does require a spotlight on oneself to look at the life they've unconsciously created and become conscious about how that has affected their offspring and how disabling it is to a son for a mother to praise and support him in an exaggerated way when he doesn't have a foundation of integrity, dignity, leadership, discernment, godliness, and a clear moral compass. We may all know someone that society would call a mama's boy, or say they're too close. We recognize an unhealthy dynamic between mother and son. We know biblically that a man is to grow up, find a wife, and devote his life to her, putting her first always. That creates strong family units where future generations see couplehood and marriage being engaged in demonstratively, carried out sacredly, where partners are best friends, they uplift each other, they dedicate their lives to a common purpose and vision. And the man paves a way that's ethical, paves a way that's inspiring and substantially rooted in goodness and positive impact. It can be uncomfortable to look at long-held patterns, decades long, and make changes. But when it comes to what emanates as an energetic legacy that we send out, it's important to take note in a grounded way of what's being conveyed, to see with clear eyes that the continuation of an enabling pattern takes what the man can be and cripples him. Because now when he goes to fly, he doesn't know how to spread his wings. Or worse, he may not even know that he has wings. So what can his children or wife look up to? He's not flying. He's not soaring. He's not living an exalted life. He's only comfortable in the transactional and fairly useless and harmful in the relational sense. Mothers who enable their sons stunt their growth. And this is where the responsibility of the mother must transform. Because true love does not make a man small so that he remains close and just stays nearby the mother. True maternal love prepares him to leave. A mother who wishes to course correct does not need to condemn herself or drown in guilt. Guilt keeps the pattern frozen in place. Awareness, however, is alchemy. Awareness is the moment the spell breaks. The moment a woman sees clearly, she regains her power to change the energetic agreement between herself and her son. The first step is subtle, but profoundly important. The mother must return the son to his rightful role. He is the child, not the emotional partner, not the confidant for her loneliness, or the man of the house in a psychological sense. When this boundary is restored and the mother returns the son to his rightful role, something ancient and correct begins to rearrange itself inside the psyche of both people. Practically speaking, this means withdrawing from certain dynamics that once felt normal. So, not confiding in the son about adult relational struggles, not rescuing the son financially when he has the capacity to figure things out. It means allowing the son to feel the friction of his own decisions. It means requiring accountability where there may have previously been indulgence. And this is where many mothers struggle, because watching their son struggle can feel like watching him suffer. But struggle is not cruelty. Struggle is the forge of masculinity. Iron only becomes a sword when it meets fire. A mother who truly loves her son must sometimes become the guardian of the fire. So she doesn't become cold or rejecting and punitive towards the son. Quite the opposite. The love becomes cleaner, clearer, and more dignified. The mother can calmly and firmly say, "I love you deeply, and because I love you, I know you are capable of carrying your own life." Those words alone can reshape a man's destiny. Another practical shift is that the mother must begin investing energy into her own life, investing into her friendships, her passions, her spiritual development, her health, and her joy. When a woman becomes fulfilled within herself, she no longer unconsciously extracts emotional nourishment from her son. the energetic cord loosens. Something else happens when this shift occurs. When a mother releases her son from the invisible role of emotional caretaker, she is symbolically cutting a second umbilical cord of the psyche. The moment that cord dissolves, the son's spirit gains room to rise. Many men do not become fully themselves until this energetic permission is granted. A mother can begin asking herself 3 simple questions in daily life. Am I helping my son grow, or am I helping him avoid growth? Am I giving love, or am I removing consequences? Am I strengthening my son's character, or am I protecting his comfort? Those questions become her compass. Another powerful act is encouraging the presence of other men in the son's life. It's imperative that he have mentors, coaches, elders, spiritual leaders, craftsmen, teachers, uncles, community figures, because masculinity matures when he witnesses other men walking a path of discipline, responsibility, and honor. A mother who's wise doesn't try to be everything. She opens the gates so that her son can encounter the brotherhood that shapes him. And perhaps the most mystical truth of all this is a mother does not raise a boy so that he will remain hers. She raises him so that one day another woman can trust him with her heart, her body, her future, and the children they may bring into the world. If a mother remembers that sacred trajectory, it becomes easier to step out of the way of his becoming. There's not possession involved. The mother understands at the highest level that motherhood is an act of stewardship. You do not keep the eagle in the nest because you love it. You teach it the sky. You teach the sky, that means stepping back from the edge of the nest, allowing the wind to do its work. If mothers across the world begin making even small shifts in this direction, where they replace enabling their sons with having healthy expectations of him and no longer rescuing him, but instead having him be responsible, this would ripple enormously throughout the world. Families would stabilize. Women would meet men who are internally structured. Children would grow up seeing partnership modeled in strength, not dependency. And sons would grow into men who know how to stand, how to love, and how to lead, which in the end is what every mother hoped for when she first held her child and felt the mystery of life placed into her arms. May this message be of service along your path. Feel free to share it with those who would be open to receiving this transmission. God bless.